So all the details on that on the way a little bit later on. Now, if you love a trip to the theatre, it sounds like you're going to get your money's worth at the Everyman in Cheltenham on Thursday and Friday this week. The Irving Studio is the venue for the Taking Flight Short Play Festival. And here to tell us all about it, a tour of the playwrights taking part, Jenny Stark and Harri Dhillon. Hello, both. Afternoon to you.
Hello.
Hello.
Ah, there we are, all the way down in London for us this afternoon. And this sounds like great fun. Just tell me a little bit about the premise here. What can we expect?
Well, it's been organised by Red Dragonfly Productions. So it's basically their stories from British, East Asian and South Asian community, trying to make the stories fun without being typical immigrant stories, stories about refugees, that kind of thing. So they're going to be 3 short plays, 3 30-minute plays.
That's it. I was going to ask you about the criteria for a short play. 30-minute max, is it?
Seems like it, yeah. That's what we've done.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about them, Jenny, what you've put together for this.
So my play is called Aiko, and it's set in Japan. It's centered around 3 generations of women, and it's set in an old wooden house surrounded by green paddy fields and dragonflies flitting about. And the main lady is an elderly lady called Aiko, who's very cheeky. So she'd rather kind of clutch a bottle of whiskey and sort of run around wildly than do an afternoon tea. It looks at the kind of family love between all 3, especially her and her granddaughter, and what happens when things go wrong and how families come together.
And what about you, Harri?
So mine's called A Piece of Cake. It's a comedy, a caper, because I like saying caper. It's kind of like, I've influenced by Fawlty Towers, with kind of lots of different stories going on, lots of things escalating, and it all kind of crashes at the end. So it should be, it's very fast moving, and I hope very, very funny, and light-hearted. It's just centered around a wedding where things go very, very wrong.
And for the both of you, when you set out to write these, were you writing these with it being a short play in mind, or is that just where your pens took you?
I don't think so for me. I think I tend to start with character mostly, and I sort of just explore from there. I was just interested in following a really crazy mind and seeing what she would do, and what kind of adventures I could go on. So that's how it all started for me.
What about you, Harri?
For me, it's just figuring out the story and just see where it takes me, whether it's being a 30-minute and whether it ends up being 30 minutes or an hour, what have you. I tend to get bored if I write something too long, so 30 minutes probably suits me best. What's
the skill in telling a story in 30 minutes?
Oh, gosh. That's a very hard question. It's probably, I'd say honesty, you know. I think people respond to honest writing. One of my favourite writers, Jez Butterworth, once described theatres as cathedrals, secular cathedrals, and I really loved that. There's something magical about going to the theatre, I think. When you can all sit there as an audience and sort of lose your own identities and get transported into something greater than yourself.
I was thinking of it more like because I'm into comedy, I approached it like a live studio sitcom kind of thing. So like a typical BBC 30-minute sitcom, so you do 10 minutes setting things up, 10 minutes escalating it, and the last few minutes resolving it. So I just approached it as a sitcom, really.
So pace is important?
Yeah, definitely. Because it's live in front of audience, you want to keep them engaged and interested, so you can't be too slow. So obviously 30 minutes, you need to tell a story and keep it compact enough to keep people engaged during the 30 minutes, really, yeah.
And what about sharing that platform effectively with other playwrights as well? It's not just your play that takes centre stage; it's others. How does that work with an audience?
I think that's actually the best bit. I think it's just so fantastic that, as an audience we can sit there and listen into all these different voices that aren't usually staged, hearing from modern multicultural Britain, and just understanding that there's a humanity that runs through every experience.
Yeah, because the 3 playwrights, we don't know each other, we never met each other, so we haven't worked together, so it's very, very interesting to see within the same criteria what kind of stories and characters we come up with.
And what are you both working on aside from this then at the moment?
So I'm working on some fuller plays, and I'm working on a novel as well.
I've been doing stand-up for the last 6 months actually, around London and around the South Coast, because I find it's more freeing. I can pretty much say whatever I like and and just get an instant reaction pretty much. So yeah, I've been enjoying doing stand-up in around London and Southampton and Portsmouth, that kind of thing.
Does stand-up lend itself to your work as a playwright, though, as well? Some of the things you can observe and some of the things you can pick up?
Yeah, because the play includes elements of being British Asian and that kind of thing. And I use the same kind of influences in my stand-up as well, what it's like being a British Asian and just kind of lampooning the whole thing.
Well, have you both been to the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham before? Have you been? I'm sure you have. Yes or no? No, you haven't.
No. We'll be there. We'll be there this Friday, though.
You will certainly. I'm sure you will. Absolutely, you're going to love it. It's a beautiful, beautiful theatre in the heart of Cheltenham. You're going to have a great time. All the very best with it. Thank you for joining us on the programme this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks you very much.
All the best then. Bye bye. That's there we are. They're going to enjoy themselves by the sounds of it. Harri, Dhillon, and Jenny Stark in Cheltenham when they come here on Friday. The Taking Flight Short Play Festival. So two of their plays. They've both written a piece of Cake by Harri and Aiko by Jenny, along with Little Potatoes by Claire Redaway. They are all part of the new the Taking Flight Festival, which is taking place at the Everyman Theatre at the Irving Studio for the Taking Flight Short Play Festival, the 13th and 14th of June. So that's Thursday and Friday of this week.
Playing more of the music you love.